2020 has been a nightmare year for America, and the economic fallout is just getting started. Most of us have in no way skilled a year that has been as difficult as 2020 has been for our nation. It has simply been one main disaster after another, and the month of September has introduced us even extra trouble. The worst wildfire season in records of the Kingdom of California has been making headlines day after day, and now the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg threatens to amplify the political turmoil in this country to a completely new level. Many had such excessive hopes for 2020. However, at this factor, this year has been such a catastrophe that USA Today is calling it an American nightmare, and it is challenging to argue with their reasoning. First, the pandemic, which divided us, economically devastated us, and has killed nearly 200,000 of us. Then the racial unrest erupting at the death of more black Americans at the hands of police: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, Daniel Prude. Now the extreme weather for only the second time in history. The National Hurricane Center has moved into the Greek alphabet for storm names. This season's wildfires are bigger, deadlier, and more frequent than in years past. In the West, people can't breathe, and now a member of the US Supreme Court has died with about a month and a half to go till we get to election day. The surprising dying of Ruth Bader Ginsburg has startled the complete country, and I will share my evaluation on the place matters ought to go from right here on, the most important news later tonight. In this podcast, I choose the focal point on the financial influence that all of this chaos is having. Since the pandemic first started, greater than 60 million Americans have filed new claims for unemployment benefits, and that is a threshold that has by no means been crossed earlier than in all of our history. And we have additional viewed organizations shut down at a tempo that is challenging to thoroughly grasp. If you can agree with it, greater than 160,000 organizations listed on Yelp say that they have closed. Yelp on Wednesday released its latest economic impact report, revealing business closures across the US are increasing as a result of the coronavirus pandemic's economic toll. As of August 31st, 163,735 businesses have indicated on Yelp that they have closed. That's down from the 180,000 that closed at the very beginning of the pandemic. However, it actually shows a 23% increase in the number of closures since mid-July. I was once most alarmed by means of that final sentence. Things have been supposed to be getting a lot higher by now. However, as a substitute, we have considered a 23% make bigger in the wide variety of closures for the reason that mid-July, that is no longer good, and the proportion of companies on Yelp that are indicating that their closures are permanent simply maintains rising. In addition to monitoring closed businesses, Yelp also takes into account the businesses whose closures have become permanent. That number has steadily increased throughout the past 6 months, now reaching 97%, 966, representing 60% of closed businesses that will not be reopening. So what this capability is that none of us must be looking forward to a return that what we viewed to be normal prior to 2020. In fact, it is probable that we will see massive numbers of groups proceed to fail in the months ahead. According to Fox Business, a whopping 40% of all US eating places could go beneath inside the subsequent 6 months. At least 40% of restaurant operators struggling to stay afloat during the coronavirus pandemic believe their businesses could go under within the next 6 months if there is no additional stimulus package from the federal government, according to a new survey by the National Restaurant Association. With 1 in every 6 restaurants closed permanently or for the long term, the industry is on track to lose $240 billion in sales by the end of the year, according to the National Restaurant Association's findings on the impact COVID-19 has on the restaurant business. So, what do you think? Should we bail out the restaurant industry? By the way, the airline industry honestly needs a bailout too, and simply about each and every different enterprise is searching for authorities assist as well. The cause why nearly everybody has their arms out is due to the fact we have plunged into a crippling monetary depression, and every person is beginning to realize that there is no cease in sight to this downturn. Off-road, most common residents additionally prefer every other spherical of stimulus checks from the federal government, and we are being advised that there is in reality properly risk that the financial system backslides if that does no longer happen. Lawmakers remain deadlocked over a measure to provide another round of $1,200 checks to most households and more aid to struggling small businesses and unemployed Americans. Most saw the money they received from Congress's $2.2 trillion CARE Act run dry over the summer. If they don't approve another stimulus, they're taking a huge risk, says Mark Zandi, chief economist of Moody's Analytics. The odds are better than even the economy backslides. Off-road that is no longer actual at all. In fact, it is exceeding clear that what is in advance of us is going to be an awful lot worse than what we have already experienced. But most Americans don't favor to hear that. Most of us simply prefer to grasp to the faith that at some point we will wake up and the entirety will have back to normal. That may additionally take place in fairy tales. However, this is actual life, and actual lifestyles virtually does now not work that way.
Most of the idea, comment, information, and criticism containing in these videos have been created by Daily News Report. Before making any important investment decision, use the information contained in these videos as a starting point for conducting your own research. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.